And we are live from Lindau, Germany, on this beautiful, idyllic, medieval island, which is annually, 74 years now, annually the host of the Lindau Nobel Laureate meetings. This year is a chemistry meeting. And we have about 30 Nobel laureates and more than 600 young scientists from more than 80 countries here for a week of mentorship. Some lectures and social events. And I was very excited to find out this year that a special guest was invited to moderate a panel about AI as a tool in chemistry. And that'll be coming up in just a little while. This is my friend Derek Muller. You surely know his very successful YouTube channel called Veritasium, which, what do you have, 18 million
18.2, yeah. No.
Did you ever imagine that it would be that successful?
No, I surely didn't. No, I just, I was happy that anyone was watching. I was sending them to my mom and my friends in the early days, just posting on Facebook. If we got to 100 views, I'd be like, that's a big win. So I still remember those days.
I'll bet. And how do you identify, like, because you are a scientist, so you got your PhD in...
In physics education research at the University of Sydney, yeah.
Oh, and Sydney. Now you're Canadian.
Canadian, yeah. First Vancouver. First degree was at Queen's in engineering physics. So I have a sort of background in engineering physics. I was good at science. I love science. It's very cool. But for my career, I really wanted to be a creative person. And engineering didn't seem to have it. So I tried to like squish these interests in like physics and film together into a career. And I'm just so lucky. I feel like I just got like horseshoe.
When did you, what was, when you were thinking about this, did YouTube already exist?
No.
At what point in your
I started my PhD at 2004, and in 2004 there was no YouTube. But I was just sort of, I made the PhD about how do you make a film that teaches physics? Like how do you make a film that actually will get across some conceptual physics to students? And so that's really what I looked at for close to 4 years. And it's turned out to be remarkably useful. YouTube came along in 05, 06, and then I started posting things to YouTube probably 2010, 2011. I just, like, the timing was unbelievable. So lucky.
How long did it take? So it was kind of a slow burn, right, at first?
Yeah,
you told me it's not that slow a burn. Like within
that's
a year
a pretty
or two,
slow
you were
burn.
doing okay.
It is, like 2 years. My first year, I made $600 on YouTube, and so I was working about 15 hours a week just to pay the bills as like a tutor, and then the rest of the time I was just dedicating like 40, 50, 60 hours a week to making YouTube videos at a time when almost no one was doing that, and everyone, there was like YouTube meetups where I'd go to, and like everyone was a weirdo. And when you're in one of those meetings, you're like, am I a weirdo?
They weren't like science communicators.
No one was a science communicator,
right.
but no one was even, like, they were all strange people, Because like doing YouTube was a thing that you did in your mom's basement or something.
Right.
Like it was just a strange, like my friends were all like, oh, you had this job, you were working, doing well, now you've quit and you're doing what? Posting videos on YouTube? Like it seemed insane at the time.
Yeah.
So it took 2 years before I could quit doing everything else. And then the YouTube revenue started paying for my lifestyle, my rent, my food, and that for me was just like the biggest win. That was a point that I never thought I would get to, honestly.
And as it gradually increased, was there a point where it really broke big?
I definitely had a few viral hits. I feel like the life of a YouTuber is sort of like a punctuated equilibrium. It's like, how does evolution happen? Does it happen gradually over time? Like I think the most recent evidence suggests that like it's slow for a while and then you have sudden discontinuity, some sudden big shifts. So for me, there was a video, even just a couple months into when I started, where I was asking people about the distance between the Earth and the Moon. If the Earth is a basketball and the Moon's a tennis ball.
Yes.
And most people think they're about like this, but it turned out that it actually should be about 30 meters, 30 feet, 10 meters away.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those like mental moments for you to suddenly realize, whoa, the whole world and the universe is so much bigger than we normally think. And that went big on Reddit.
That.
So yeah.
And I love that. I like thinking about it. I think if you ask most people, how high do you think the International Space Station orbits? They would put some distance, and it's like, oh, if you put it on any reasonable sized globe, it's basically touching it. It's
Totally.
Incredible. So this year the meeting has multiple themes, and one of them is science communication, and another is AI as a tool in chemistry. And so you're moderating this panel, and I know you met with your panelists to talk. We don't want to give it all away because the panel will be live streamed in just an hour and a half or so.
3 o'clock Lindau time. Yeah, 2 hours from now.
So without giving it all away, what kind of things are you thinking about here?
I think it's going to be a really powerful panel. There are 2 Nobel laureates on the panel, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. There's 6 panelists, and they all have such formidable backgrounds. I'm just excited to share the stage with them and get their stories out. But we're going to talk about everything from how AI first sort of came into chemistry to the major breakthrough that people have heard about maybe is AlphaFold, this whole discovery of about 200 million protein structures. And solving protein structure had been a giant problem for chemistry for decades, for basically half a century. And that's really transforming medicine because you could start to maybe develop a drug just by knowing what protein you're trying to target. And now you can use AI also to develop something that's going to target and bind to that protein. And it's really accelerating the drug development cycle. It's increasing the rate at which we can test these drugs in people and clinical trials. So I'm pretty optimistic that just this one breakthrough is going to lead to hundreds, thousands, millions of breakthroughs in the next 10 years. People will start to see this actually affecting their lives. So, thus far it's kind of like a theoretical thing that obviously scientists know and are excited about, but really seeing it make an impact in the world, I think, is what's next.
Yeah, and I guess so. I don't know what really led to you being invited here, but I do know that you recently gave a talk at the Perimeter Institute of Theoretical Physics in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, where you spoke about AI in education. And what was, without trying to repeat your entire hour-long lecture, what did you? What do you have to say about that?
So I think my interpretation of AI in education is that there are some potential real strong benefits. One thing that everyone needs to learn things is they need to be able to do repeated examples with feedback, and ideally immediate feedback. And I feel like AI is going to be so great for generating all kinds of different questions and different problem sets and then giving you that feedback right away and helping you guide you to the right ideas. So I think that's going to be, it's going to be really powerful for someone who wants to do it that way. The thing I'm worried about is I'm worried about people just, students abandoning the work that needs to be done, for example, write this essay, and instead they just say, ChatGPT, you write my essay, and they never go through the struggle of doing it. And you might think, okay, well, what's the problem, right? If we have technology that can do it for us now. Well, my concern is that I think it's actually in the struggle, in the process of trying to write something, that you better understand it yourself, and your brain is able to build these structures, these great hierarchies, these great interconnected webs of knowledge that allow you to become an expert. And if you never go through that struggle, you never develop the network. And that is really what learning should be all about. So I've got 4 young kids under 9 years of age, and I'm very concerned about the way in which they engage with AI. They are not going to be allowed on my watch to write their essays by asking a machine to write it for them. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I really like that. And I've thought years ago, before we were even talking about AI, that I had a really good education, and I took calculus and physics in high school. I never really mastered music. But I think both of those are things that, even though I didn't do much after that with the calculus or physics, I've always thought, just like learning a language or learning the language of music, learning math, that I'll bet it creates pathways in your brain that even though you don't do calculus anytime after that, it's affected the structure of your brain.
100%, 100%. I think that's what all the evidence shows. I'm so often with my kids now, and we see someone do something amazing, whether it's play a musical instrument or do an amazing trick on their skateboard or something like that. My kids are always awed, and they're like, how do they do that? And it's the same answer every time. It is just practice, 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 that effortful practice, which maybe doesn't feel good because you're pushing your limits because you're trying to do something you can't do yet. That is where the learning happens. And that's the message that I hope to reach everyone with, is that, like, yeah, if it's easy, that's the thing you want to do. But if it's hard, if it feels like something you can't do, that's where you actually learn. It's right on the barrier, right on the edge between what you can do and what you can't do. Everyone, if they want to get better at something, they have to be pushing that boundary. And that's a really challenging thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Psychologically, who wants to be doing stuff they can't do? Nobody, and certainly not my kids, certainly not me, you know? I get it, but like we have to push ourselves because that's the way to learn.
That's true. There's this tendency that when you try to do something, it's like, I'm not good at it, so I don't want to do it. It's like, you're not good at it because you've never done it before.
You haven't done it a lot. Exactly. The people who are good at this have done it so many times. You can actually see this in my old YouTube videos. You go back and watch me. Like, I'm not very good on camera, which is funny because like I had done a lot of drama before that. I'd done plays, I'd done performances on stage, and I'd even made some videos. But still, when I go to make these science videos, I've been teaching, you know, this stuff to kids, and the kids loved my teaching. But when I taught to a camera, it was just worse. I was like stiff. I couldn't communicate in a way that felt natural. And so it took me years and years and years of practice to get to a level where I feel like comfortable staring down a box and being like, actually, I can kind of feel like I'm speaking to a person there. And give some of myself and give it in the way that like I think feels human and genuine, which is what we need when we're talking to cameras.
Let's talk about science communication, but also let's give a shout out to your wife,
Oh,
Raquel, who is also a scientist, a planetary geologist, and she's a great science communicator. I know her on Instagram, and where you could be doing the most mundane things, and you've been spending time in Portugal and going to, touristy, cool sites. And just in this past week, I saw this post where she took a picture of the cobblestone or somewhere.
Yeah, the cobblestones in Lisbon. And
she goes, like, this is basalt and limestone, the black is basalt, and the white is limestone. It's like, yeah, like I would never know that.
You learn something from that post. And those stones are remarkably slippery. Everyone is always taking a spill on that. But no, everywhere I go, you know, she's always looking at different things than I am. She's always like, oh, do you see the layers there? You know, she's looking at the rocks on the side or discontinuities. It's just a totally different lens on the world when you come from geology. You know, the world becomes your like sort of study thing, play thing, the thing that you derive awe from. And she derives a lot of awe from it. It's funny, you know, when we go to mountains where there's like forests and things, she's not pleased because she's like, this foliage covers my view of the rocks. So her favorite places are like deserts and places with exposed rock, because like that's what she's about. She's about, you know, getting down to bedrock. So we're going to Iceland soon, and she's going to be able to have a whole playground. The whole island is going to be amazing for her.
Your kids must get double teamed all the time, where she's giving this geology information and you're telling them some physics observation.
That's right. Yep. They get a lot of science from their parents.
So one of the themes this year is science communication, and you know, a lot of people that are our potential audience here are young scientists, past attendees, alumni of this meeting, but also young scientists that might want to apply to this meeting in the future. And so many of them, maybe more than older generations of scientists, so many young scientists are really interested in science communication.
Totally.
And are there any like little tidbits you'd like to share?
I think, you know, like anything, it's practice. You know, you just got to start doing it and then don't stop. I mean, if you try those two steps, just start, don't stop, I think that'll take you remarkably far. That was kind of my formula in the early days. I guess if there was a third step to the formula, it was like focus on the process more than the outcome. You know, whether this video got a ton of views or none. You know, how do I feel about the video? How do I feel about the process? What could I do better in the next one? So if I could focus in on that, which was hard to do, but like if you can stick to that, I think you can go a long way. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities right now to go viral, more than when I started. And I think virality is important because it gets you in front of a bunch of people who otherwise wouldn't know you exist. And just having people know you exist is, I think, the biggest challenge. Then there's also, you know, being good and being fun and, you know, all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But just like raising to the level of like someone knows I exist is an important level or an important challenge in just getting your message out there.
And if someone's starting out today, is YouTube still where you would suggest they start out?
My suggestion is to start with shorts and to spread them across a bunch of platforms. So you've got like Instagram Reels, you've got TikTok, you've got Snapchat, you've got YouTube Shorts. So I would make shorts and I would post them across there and sort of see where you get the traction, see which types of content get traction, and just keep iterating. I mean, iteration is the key to science. It's the key to science communication. We don't stop iterating even now. So like we're pushing the bounds, maybe making an hour-long video, which is something I never would have dreamed of in the early days. It was 2-3 minutes. So yeah, you know, I've gone through a very experimental sort of process where sometimes I'm interviewing people, sometimes I'm doing explainers, sometimes I'm doing demos or experiments. So there's a lot of different, it's kind of whatever I'm interested in at the time. I'm never too worried about like sticking to one format, which is, yeah, I would advocate for that. Like experimentation is important in science. Experimentation is also important in science communication. If you're not getting some no's, it's probably a sign that you're doing things wrong. If you're getting a lot of no's, keep iterating, keep experimenting, keep trying different things. I think it's just like, yeah, people can get trapped in that thing of like, oh, I'm not getting the response I want, and kind of quitting. Quitting is the ultimate like that. Well, now you're just off the trail. So if you really want to get somewhere, you got to get back on the trail and keep trying. So.
Yeah, and I bet when you started, you must have been just total one-man band.
Oh, 100%.
And no budget, zero budget.
Yeah.
And could you have pictured that? I don't know, how big a team do you have? Do you care to say, like, some of your videos must be pretty high budget?
Yeah, the videos have gotten incredibly expensive, and they used to cost nothing. That used to make me feel really good, honestly. I did it basically by myself for 10 years. And one of the reasons why I was hesitant to hire anyone was I was like, well, now their livelihood's going to depend on me and us being successful, and that's a lot of pressure to take on. I'm like, if I'm just supporting myself, I can handle that. Like, whatever. If this all goes in a bad direction, like, it's only me that suffers.
Yep.
So really taking on other people was a psychological challenge. I remember this video I made about the shade balls on the LA reservoir. There's 96 million black plastic shade balls on this reservoir. It was really a question of like, why are they there, and is this a good idea, and what's going on? But after I made that video, people asked in the comments like, can you swim in those shade balls? And I was like, well, obviously you can't swim. It's a reservoir. It's a drinking reservoir. You can't go in there. But that's when I started to think, I was like, well, I'm at a size now that I could like buy 10,000 shade balls. It cost me about $3,000, which was maybe the most money I'd ever spent on a single video before. I was like, I could buy these things, put them on my swimming pool, and then try to swim in them. So I did that.
Yeah.
And that was one
Were
of the.
you able to?
To a degree. If there's one layer, it's kind of okay. If there's multi-layers, then we seem to find that it acted like a non-Newtonian fluid. So actually trying to push, force, compress into them would mean they all bunch up together and resist you much more strongly.
You could go slowly?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. You could sort of slowly get your way through, but if you were actually trying to like butterfly or something, they would basically stop you flat. Yeah. So it was more fun and more surprising than I imagined. But that was one of those leaping off points, 2019, when I really like took a wild gamble and was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible, and I know I don't want to take too much of your time because you have a panel to moderate.
That's
but,
right.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and good luck on the panel and with everything else. If you don't know, the YouTube channel is Veritasium, Derek Muller, and we'll be back with more live interviews from the 74th Lindau Nobel Laureate meeting.